Okay, well, good evening. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. My name is Eddy Cumins. I'm the Smart General Manager, and tonight's listening session is on freight. Here's tonight's overview. We'll go over some listening session ground rules. John Kerruish is going to provide us a freight update. I'll give a little bit of background on planning for the future, and then we'll open it up. And really why we're all here tonight is to get your comments on freight. Just a few things. There are multiple ways for you to provide your feedback. You can share your thoughts tonight on this Zoom meeting. You can take a survey on ridership, pathways, extension, or freight. That web address is sonoma-marintrain.org/planning-for-the-future, or you can simply go to the sonoma-marintrain.org website and click on the link on the homepage. You can also send an email to freightInput@sonoma-marintrain.org. We'll also be monitoring that email address, and we'll be able to collect your information and your comments from there. Just a few ground rules. Stay focused on the question at hand. I have 3 questions tonight on freight to keep us on track. Ask you to be future focused. Think about what can SMART do to improve its performance moving forward. Ask you to keep an open mind, be respectful of others' ideas. And we want to have time for everyone to speak, so we're just asking everybody to follow the 2-minute rule. We definitely want to hear your comments, thoughts, and opinions, but we're just asking everybody to keep those to 2 minutes or less. In addition to recording tonight's session, I will be taking notes, so there may be a time that my head is down. If there's something that I don't quite understand, I may come back and ask some clarifying questions. Before I turn this over to John to provide an update on freight, I just want all those on the call to know that, we're not doing this listening session just to check a box to say that we got public input. I truly want to hear your thoughts and opinions. I think your feedback matters, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about freight tonight. So with that, I will turn it over to John Kerruish to provide us an update on freight.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Kerruish. I'm the freight manager here at SMART. Next slide. All right, a brief history. Late 1800s, freight and passenger service began moving throughout the region here on the ex-NWP line. Originally went from Southern Marin to Eureka, known as the Redwood Empire. Over the years, service has been supplied up to 42 railroads at once. Throughout its history, North Bay Rail has predominantly moved lumber from Northern California Forest and Mendocino and Humboldt counties down through Sonoma-Marin to the rest of the Bay Area. Freight rail service in the region continued to shrink as trucking became cheaper and freeways were improved. Between 1998 and 2011, freight traffic was stopped by the Federal Railroad Administration due to unsafe conditions created by El Nino storms. In 2011, the NWP company reopened freight service between Napa, Windsor, moving grain, SMART construction material, and lumber products roughly 3 times a week. On this map here, to the far right, you'll see the purple line, which is the Union Pacific Railroad. The light purple is the California Northern Railroad. The blue is SMART's freight service only. And then the dark green is SMART's freight service and SMART's revenue passenger service. SMART owns the underlying right-of-way to milepost 89.0, which is actually the Sonoma and Mendocino County line. We're authorized to operate freight and passenger service up to milepost 89. SMART has an easement to operate passenger service only in the Willits segment, generally extending to milepost 142.5. Segment currently is owned by the North Coast Rail Authority. Currently, SMART's contracting freight operations, which started on March 1st of 2022. They currently make 2 round trips to serve the Petaluma customers after revenue passenger service. 2 round trips to the California Northern Railroad to receive and deliver rail cars to and from the interchange. We also have weekly track inspections to comply with FRA requirements. weekly locomotive servicing, which includes fueling and sanding, weekly track repairs and maintenance, and monthly on-track equipment servicing and repairs. Smart hired freight manager on March 1st, 2022. So far, I've interviewed freight utility candidates. 3 candidates are in background portion of the employment process. I also have interviewed for the freight administration. We have currently 1 person into the backgrounds. Locomotives and equipment has been inspected by smart staff, which will require some repairs. Shelville Depot, locomotive and equipment storage cleanup is underway. And we have on the books Black Point Bridge repairs next year and Highway 37 crossing repairs. Pursuing new freight customers, contacted 4 new potential customers. Also have established relationships with the California Northern and the Union Pacific Railroads.
Okay, thank you, John. I appreciate that. Now we just want to shift gears a little bit. I want to provide a little background on kind of the process that we've been going through with staff and the board regarding planning for the future. This is the planning model that we used. If you look at this kind of in a circle, it starts with the SWOT analysis where staff sat down and really worked on identifying our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We used that information with the board, and the board created the mission statement and the vision statements and created our strategic objectives. This is kind of where we are in the process right now, in between objectives and goals. Before we went in and started establishing goals and establishing our strategy, we wanted to make sure that we got public input. And so that's where we're at right now today. I will share just a little bit on the SWOT analysis, talk about the mission, vision, and our strategic objectives. But before we move forward in this process, we definitely wanted to hear feedback from the public. So in regards to this, rolling in here, you know, we did this, I think in January, maybe February was when we were working on the SWOT analysis. And to be honest with you, there's not a lot in this particular SWOT analysis that's directly related to freight. Honestly, at that point in time, we didn't know exactly what all we had, what was going on. And so not a lot of that's addressed in our SWOT analysis. But I do think that there are a few things I would like to highlight, starting with the strengths. Number 1, dedicated and highly skilled staff. There's zero doubt in my mind that we're going to be successful with freight. We have a lot of staff members here with a lot of experience, and John Kerruish is one of those with the most experience who is leading the charge for us as our new freight manager. You know, and we've also been successful at identifying and securing funds in the past, and I think that that's going to continue to ring true as we move forward, and is going to help us to improve our freight service in the future. Weaknesses: public perception, local support. Many of you on this call, you know, probably read as soon as Smart took over the freight, you know, there was some negative comments that were out there, and so I think that's something that we need to be aware of as we move forward. And then over on the threats, kind of in that same vein of just public trust and confidence. And, you know, this is something we have to be aware of and know that that's kind of what we're up against, and we have a lot of work to do moving forward. Frequently asked questions. Many of you have probably seen this list before, but this is something that I shared with the board because as I was going out and meeting with people and meeting with organizations, I continued to get the same 10, 12 questions over and over again. And I think the one question on here that relates to freight is, why is Smart taking on freight? And as we go through this process, the strategic planning process, we really start to develop those strategies moving forward. That's something we want to make sure that we answer and help people understand why Smart is taking on freight. Just wanted to share, this is what we refer to as the Smart House. The board helped create this. They started with the foundation of our house, which is our values: safety, integrity, stewardship, continuous improvement. And then we have the pillars of our house, which are our strategic objectives: ridership, pathways, extension, and of course, freight, which is what we're here talking about tonight. The ceiling of our house is our mission statement: we connect communities. And what that means is that Smart provides safe, reliable, and environmentally responsible transportation options. And then, of course, the roof of our house is our vision statement: smarter transportation for a smarter future. And what that means is SMART envisions an innovative transportation system that provides integrated mobility solutions, promotes sustainable growth, and enhances quality of life. So that's the strategic planning process that we've been going through. Again, we're here focused tonight on freight, and this is where we're going to open it up and get your feedback. You can see that there are 3 questions on the screen. We will go through those one by one. This is the 4th session that we've done, so I've learned a little through this process, and I would just ask everybody to focus on that first question of what we're asking in that question, and then when we get to the end, if there's something else that we need to add, we can do that. So the first question, and like I said, we'll open it up to the public. The first question is, how can the North Bay make the most of its existing freight infrastructure?
Our first hand raised is a phone call in ending in 1402. So please state your name and give your statement.
Yes, my name is Jamesholmes in Larkspur. Those who read some of the unfavorable comments. I had some initial questions. One is, did McGuire come through with the 10 million, or is he working on it? What are the costs and revenue to date? And did they ever get data from the NWP seller regarding the costs? The way I think that we can make the most of this project is not to run it at a loss. Do not subsidize losses from the freight operation. If the freight operation proves to be a money loser, get rid of it quick or close it down. Do not be swayed by idealistic considerations about taking trucks off the highway. Keep in mind that the taxpayers did not vote for freight. Do not expect taxpayers to subsidize it. SMART has already fallen short in several respects, and if SMART holds on to a money-losing freight line, then it can expect that reasonable taxpayers will not vote for future taxes to support the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the feedback.
Next up, we have Dan Bell.
Yeah, I can't really answer the question unless we get a little more information. Kerruish's report was pretty brief, and so I would want to back up a little, and if you can just give us a little heads up on what's the condition of the rail, different sections from Airport Station to Windsor, from Windsor to Hillsburg, from Hillsburg to Cloverdale, from Cloverdale to Hopland, etc., and also from Highway 101 over toward the Napa River. Without knowing that, it's really hard to have any provide any sort of suggestions here.
Dan, can you repeat that? You broke up just a little bit, and I didn't get all of what you were saying.
Well, I'm just saying that if we're going to make comments about the existing freight infrastructure, I'd like to know better about what's the existing condition of the tracks, the sections. You know, are the sections from Airport all the way to Cloverdale and then the Hopland and the Ukiah or even Willits? Are those in place? I have no idea. And how about even from Highway 101 over toward 37, the Napa River, and parts to Suisun City? What are the conditions of those tracks?
Yeah, John, do you want to provide just a little bit of information on that?
Yes. Okay. So the tracks north of Airport Road are currently taken up, and we're waiting to get those tracks replaced. And until we have those tracks replaced, we have been talking to some customers up there. But right now, we just got to try to get the track placed back in. Tracks further north of Windsor, all the way to Cloverdale. We have viewed the tracks. They're in great need of a lot of repairs. They haven't been touched in over 20 years. So there's a lot of vegetation and growth, and just there's a lot of unknown up there right now. And the tracks going from Ignacio to the Cal Northern, which is at Lombard, the tracks are in service and they are just fine, just regular maintenance on those tracks. And the tracks into Suisun Fairfield to the UP, those tracks are in service and They're currently being operated daily by the freight train on the Cal Northern.
Thanks, John.
Next up, we have Al Merkebs. Al, it appears you're muted. Do you want to try unmuting?
Sorry about that. As far as answering the first question, it seems to me that there's a tremendous lack of spurs, rail spurs to industries and companies. There's a lot of a right of way for freight, but there are no connections hardly. So I would start with looking at how to build spurs for interested customers.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that, Al.
So at this time, we see no more hands raised for the first question.
Got it. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. How can new ownership by SMART support the development of rail freight up to Cloverdale?
We're not seeing any hand raising coming in. First up, we have Al Merkebs.
Okay, great.
Okay. I would go back to my previous comment. I would like to see SMART support technically and financially the building of spurs. I know the financial part might be a big challenge, but I see that as a major effort that needs to be taken.
Great, thank you.
Next up, we have Mike Arnold.
Hello, everyone. My comment really relates to both of these bullets. First of all, the interconnection between extensions generally and freight extensions north of Windsor needs to be evaluated. I recommended in the last forum that SMART really needs to get down into the weeds with cost-benefit analysis to evaluate these various questions of extensions, and that would include freight extensions. And with regards to spurs, the prior general manager had a very heavy hand when it came to spurs. His view was if a shipper wanted to build the spurs, then he would probably provide freight service, but they would have to pick up the construction costs of spurs. And as everyone knows, the construction cost of spurs is not trivial. It is expensive. There's probably environmental CEQA impacts as well, maybe not, but still, it takes a lot. And my guess would be if one did cost-benefit analysis on freight extensions, one would find that there would be a lot of cost to the SMART agency, as there already has been. And the opportunity for shippers is actually pretty limited. I would think there is a great thing, Eddy, that you and the staff could do, which is explain freight economics to the public. They don't understand it. The shibboleths about freight removing trucks from the freeway is just a shibboleth. It's just an ideological assumption, and sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not. But we have freight all over the United States, and the big freight companies are shipping across the country. It's very important to the economy, and they're giving up short lines because the private freight companies find it not economical to provide short line freight service because they can't compete trucks. In addition, if one Googles trucks versus freight shipment, there are advisory websites to help shippers evaluate, gee, should they ship by freight? Should they ship by truck? What are the criteria? And what you'll find out just reading that list on short trips, there's a big deference to trucks. And the reason, of course, is because freight can only pick up stuff where the freight trains operate, and it can only drop off where the freight trains go, and they need truck service at both ends to get to where whatever goods are being shipped need to go. And so the last comment really has to do with the guy, John Williams, who owned NWPCO, and asking the question after 10 years, why is it that a guy who was really into freight, there's no question, John Williams knew freight cold, he was highly respected as a guy who understood freight economics. How is it that he could only have 4 customers after 10 years? And that's about the economics and the demand for freight versus trucks. And I think it's time that there is straight talk from this agency to the public regarding what are the real opportunities, what aren't the opportunities, and in particular, what has happened because the Smart Board approved becoming a common carrier. You guys are obligated to provide freight service, whether it's a financial winner or loser. The STB is not going to let you, if you've got shippers, they're not going to let you give it up just because you're losing money on it. And that really needs to be understood by the public. It is not understood by the public, and it's going to show up in your financial reports now because you designate freight separately. The public is going to see that freight it's not a huge financial loser compared to your overall budget. We know that, but it is a loser, and the optics are terrible in terms of addressing what voters tried to tell the board when they voted against Measure I, which is they care about how their money is being spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you.
Next up, we have Jamesholmes.
Yeah, the only way that it's going to get to Cloverdale is if McGuire comes through with the 10 million that he allegedly promised. Otherwise, I mean, if it's true that what Mr. Arnold said, that SMART is now obliged to support a losing proposition, then SMART is, as far as I can see, is basically dead.
Okay, thank you for your feedback.
Next up, we have Danny Sheehan.
I wasn't planning on speaking to this, and I'm speaking as an individual, but I'm hearing so much negativity that there's no focus and open minds here. How can new ownership by SMART support the development of rail freight up to Cloverdale? Infrastructure. It's what you've done so well for these years that it's created the railroad that we have. There are lots of questions on right-of-way and the cost benefit. I just want to say the environment is a cost benefit. How do you put a number on that? But just continue to create the infrastructure, find the customers. From what I understand, there's like 23 customers waiting for service. So I'm not an expert to solve the spur financials, but as you just keep the infrastructure, I think freight will be successful. Thank you.
At this time, we have no more hands raised for the second question.
So I feel like I ought to address some of that a little bit. Was a little bit of negativity there. I will tell you, if this freight business can be successful, we are going to make it successful. I can tell you that John Kerruish has been out. I know he mentioned it in his slides, but he's been out working with folks. We do have some leads of new customers, and you know, Mike, I love hearing your thoughts and opinions, but all I got to tell you, man, is that you motivate me. You motivate me to make this thing successful. And you know, you mentioned that John Williams, you know, only had 4 customers. I think we're going to prove you wrong on that one, and we're going to give it our best shot. Not an easy task, like a lot of things aren't easy, but we are moving forward, and we are going to do our absolute best to make freight successful at SMART. So with that, I will roll into the third question is, do you know of any freight that could be shipped by rail on the existing smart freight rail line between Brazos Junction and Cloverdale? And again, this comes because we do hear a lot of comments. We receive emails quite a bit. People talk about these 21 these 21 companies that are wanting to ship and so on and so forth, but we haven't got any details on that. So if you know of people out there that are interested in shipping by freight, we would love to have those names and contacts.
So at this time, I don't see any hands raised. If you do want to raise your hand on the Zoom window at about the center bottom of the screen, there's a button you can click to say raise hand. First up, we have Al Merkebs.
Great.
I'm just wondering how you are approaching potential customers. Are you doing cold calls? Just looking at a Google map from the 5 minutes before this meeting started, I saw 3 or 4 potential customers on the northern end of the line. And I think it's going to take an exerted effort to talk to folks.
Yeah, and I'll let John talk about that just a little bit. But the bottom line is that John knows this business very well, and he knows who to talk to. So he's been out talking to several agencies as well as several potential customers. John, you want to just provide no names of who you're working with, but just some details of how you've been approaching this?
I've been approaching it by either driving to the business itself, or I receive a phone call or a tip from someone who's given it to me, and I reach out and make formal meetings with them face to face and tell them what we can do and how we can do it. And we're moving forward with some new and exciting stuff.
Next up, we have Danny Sheehan.
Goodness, I just didn't want to talk, but everybody's so negative. I thought I would just add my voice of support that that's exactly how you build new business. And I have no doubt that, John, that's exactly what you're doing, that you have an area map, you know what businesses are there, you know what industries, lumber, whatever it is, and that's how you go out and get new business. It's sales 101. So again, that's part of the infrastructure and development. I just support you 110%.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Sheila Baker.
Hello, I was also not going to speak, but I guess my only input on this is to make sure that nothing is shipped anywhere that's highly dangerous, or flammable, or toxic, that would create a problem in case an accident happened. So anyway, but I'm sure that won't happen. I'm sure everything shipped will be really, really needed and lovely and wonderful and safe. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up and last hand raised at this time is Bryce Jones.
Hi, thanks. Just wanted to say really appreciate your outreach efforts. One idea that you might want to consider is Sonoma County is famous for having a massive housing crisis. We don't have enough labor here to build the amount of housing that we need. I think the Sonoma County Economic Development Board has recommended a goal of about 51,000 housing units to be built in the next 5 to 8 years. Maybe you guys, and it would be great practically, but also good for PR, to reach out to a lot of modular home construction companies throughout the US, whether it's modular units or panelized building components. It seems like that would be a great opportunity to develop a new customer base that would be able to send a huge amount of material to us, help meet the housing needs, but also a good PR tool for you to use in communicating with the public of why freight is beneficial to Sonoma County. And I think you're going to have an easier time selling people on affordable ADU units or other modular components being brought in and helping with, the cost of living here and the affordability and the housing inventory.
Great, thank you.
So at this time, we show no more hands raised for the third question.
Okay, I'll ask kind of the generic last question is, what else would you like to share with us about freight operations?
First up, we have Jamesholmes.
Yes, Jamesholmes, Larkspur. I did not hear in the report, maybe I missed it, but the current status of the Shellville gasoline, not gas, but liquid natural gas storage. I think that's what they're storing there in any event. But, my thought would be, please do not get rid of, however much that may be politically palatable, it is reportedly a rather significant portion of the revenue for the line at this point, and do not get rid of it until you have a way to replace that revenue in place, or else the line will really be in trouble. So resist the pressure to get rid of the Shellville storage until you have a backup revenue source assured. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mark McMullen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Mark McMullen. I live in Healdsburg. This is kind of just a statement that I'm sure that you've gone through this, but I just want to say this. I've walked the line from Windsor to Geyserville, and seen how there were a lot of spurs, the different places that the extra tracks were coming off, and it just seems to me that if you go back into the history and understand from the south to the north and look where freight operations were operational over the last 100 years, just what that sort of history can inform you on how you can create your freight operation in a better way, as far as where you can have, where are the places that you have hubs that I know there was a hub down at Grant Street here in Healdsburg, south of the Memorial Bridge, but just places where people, that freight would come in and go out, as well as the spurs that you would have at businesses that were built along the railroad lines for those particular reasons. But just look back at the history and really examine where some of those hubs were that have been forgotten, and how that operated in the past, and that could inform, how you're going to move forward in the future. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
So at this time, it looks like we have no more hands raised.
No more hands. This is going to be in record time. Okay, so we will likely this is our fourth listening session to this point. I really like these. I've really appreciated the feedback that we've received, both the positive and the negative. Sometimes the negative stuff's hard to hear, but it's reality. It is what it is, and we need to hear that. So I'm comfortable with it. But what I would ask is, as we look at doing these again in the future, what worked well tonight, and what would you recommend that we do in the future to make these better? And we can talk about this particular session tonight, or we can talk about, if there's some folks out there that attended previous ones, maybe things you liked, maybe things that we could change in the future. Anything?
A couple of hands raised. Oh, a few are coming up now.
Great.
First up is Mike Arnold.
Great.
I've participated in all 4 forums. I participated in the prior listening forums. The challenge is getting people who voted against Measure I to participate in these forums.
Mhm.
I mean, you just go
You
through
have
the
any
list of
advice?
people.
You have any advice how to make that happen?
You gotta meet with some of the individuals that were involved and ask, specifically ask them, we'd really appreciate, we need to hear from those who have trouble with SMART. It can't just be Mike Arnold.
I know we have one, right, Mike? We got at least one that voted against SMART.
Yeah, well,
Is Jim on here tonight?
Is who?
Jim.
Oh, no, he might be. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. But the point is there's SMART has an audience. There are people that really love the train and love the agency. And if you listen to most of the comments through all 8, the prior forums and this forums, the vast majority of comments first are divorced from the economics of train systems, and also based on a lot of very strong prior beliefs about how trains operate and how cheap they are, et cetera, and let's do this and let's do that. And the cost factor is not evident. And you need to hear from people like me who voted against Measure R primarily because I don't think the costs of this system I don't think the benefits of the system justify the amount of money of local tax dollars going to it. I've been a one-trick pony for 15 years on this subject. And you need to hear from more people like me, because those are the people you have to win over if you want to win the next tax extension measure. And if you don't win them over, it will not pass because of the 2/3 requirement.
Will you be advocating for us?
I'll wait to see what you guys do.
I think we're I'm looking forward to it. I wasn't kidding, Mike. I think you've really motivated me, and I look forward to proving you wrong in a lot of areas.
I would say this, you've made a very positive impression, specifically relative to your predecessor regarding, transparency and providing information to the public and things like that. And that's something I definitely appreciate. Mm-hmm. Something I've been fighting for years.
Yeah. So, for those that are out there listening, I told Mike this when I met him one-on-one. The board pays me to make SMART successful, and that is my primary goal. That is what I plan to do. Whether it's the passenger system, the freight system, my primary focus is to make SMART successful, and I'm confident it's going to happen because I truly believe I have the best team in the country to pull it off. We have highly skilled, highly dedicated people here who want to make this successful, and that's where we're headed. That's what we're going to do. Anybody else out there want to speak on this?
Next up, we have Al Merkebs.
I'd like to see a higher profile in the local media on smart freight. I only learned about this meeting in a very small ad, a little bit hard to read actually, in the Press Democrat a few days ago. And I'd like to see a much higher profile. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good feedback.
Next up, we have Mark McMullen.
Thank you. I was unable to come to the other 3 listening sessions because of conflicts with other meetings. I really would have liked to have talked at the last session because I live in Healdsburg. I really
Please send us an email on that.
Oh, I'll send you a very long email. Trust me.
Great, perfect. Appreciate it.
But one of the things I would recommend with these listening sessions is to have multiples on perhaps different days of the week, so that when my Wednesday meetings conflict, I can go to another meeting, an afternoon meeting, or just try and give us more of an opportunity to attend, is I guess what I would say.
That's good feedback.
I think that you have people who are just in the dinner hour and can't do this right now, and might be able to do it in the afternoon or some other way. And also, as far as getting the word out, I don't know who your social media manager is, but there's a lot of ways to really engage people about SMART and gathering email addresses from writers, or, you know, having QR codes that people can sign up to find up about things that are just right there on the stop, where you can sign up to get on a mailing list about, you know, freight or rail, or the different things that you can do at the different smart stations. One of the things that I had a problem with was it was last week or the week before, we went, my girlfriend and I took the train down from Hillsborough. We went down to the airport station, obviously, and went to San Rafael. And we were looking for, like, where's the closest coffee shop to, you know, where we can get coffee as soon as we get off. There's no real good map or anything that tells you about what's right by the station. You know, what can I do as soon as I get off this train to get my coffee, or to, you know, to go and have a good meal, or where's the closest theater, where's whatever it is. It's just, you just need something that, you know, and I know that in Europe there's the maps that are, you know, in the station that shows you right, you know, where you can just look at it and go. But in this day and age, QR code is better because it'll walk me there.
Great. Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next up, we have Sheila Baker.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Previous commenter, be sure and go on the SMART website and check out the films of the recordings of the last 3 sessions. They are recorded. So I did vote for Measure I, and I even campaigned for it a little bit. And I would vote for another tax measure for sure. And I've been very happy with the service with my my bicycle, with or without my bicycle, actually. But I've been happy with SMART. And I happen to be one of those that do promote freight over trucks. I absolutely deeply detest big trucks running around swarming Petaluma in places they really don't belong. But that's like, you know, I mean, they get off the highway, or they come right into from 37 to Lakeville and just go all over town, including Copeland Transit Mall, where 3 bus lines are, and they really should not be on Copeland Street, you know, at all. So I don't like big trucks at all. I love the idea of freight taking anything away from the truck industry. And so I would very much promote freight and promote it in the way that it is just better than truck travel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Jamesholmes.
Yes, in terms of outreach and public impression, I think perhaps one of the most important people to consider is Dick Spotswood, the IJ local government columnist. I think he is the only regular local government columnist in Marin County print media, and an awful lot of people read him and are very influenced by what he thinks, and because they consider him a knowledgeable source. So I think that a lot of people's opinions may well be shaped by what Dick Spotswood says and thinks. So he is somebody to consider as an important audience member for SMART.
Thank you.
So at this time, looks like we have no more hands raised.
Okay. Well, we will go into this, just talk a little bit about next steps. You know, we've just completed the soliciting feedback portion. We did listening sessions on ridership on April 6th, pathways on April 13th, extensions April 20th. And then, of course, tonight we did freight on April 27th. From here, we're going to use this information to develop our goals, make sure that they're aligned with our strategic objectives, and then we'll develop and deploy these strategies to achieve our goals and objectives. Of course, this information will be presented to our board, again, making sure that we're 100% aligned. And then kind of that last step there is monitoring performance and adjust as required. We want to make sure that we have baseline measures as well as key performance indicators to let us know if we're achieving our goals and objectives, if we're meeting our standards or not. And then, of course, all of this is focused on achieving our desired results. Again, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We are going to stay on the Zoom call in case some folks show up late. So we will be here in case somebody shows up and wants to provide some additional information. But with that, I will see all of you next time. And thanks again for attending. Have a great night. And Brian, if you're still listening to me, if you could just kind of monitor, see if anybody else comes in, that would be great.
Will do.
Because we did have people at that first session that showed up after we'd gone off the air. So I figure we'll stick around, see if anybody shows up.
All right.
Did everybody else leave?
Looks like we had most people leave. We actually have one hand raised, a Michael Ongirth.
Oh, go ahead, Michael. Michael, are you there?
Michael, you are muted at this time. I'm sending a request to unmute.
I just did.
There you go, Michael. We can hear you.
Okay. Eddie, you might know me from your UTA days. And you also might know that I was one of the authors of your freight study that was done by the previous general manager. It's on your, it's actually on your website, and it had a lot of information that answered some of the questions that were asked tonight.
Right.
And the other thing you probably should know is that I used to be the vice president and general manager of the Northwestern Pacific when we operated it all the way to Eureka. So I've got some input that I will give you by, that I didn't want to come in on this meeting to talk about.
That's great.
And I, quite frankly, I know where a lot of the bones are buried. So the one suggestion I would make for tonight is that there's a lot of information in the study that we did for SMART on freight potential. And it was pretty thorough. And the people on that study were pretty knowledgeable. I was the operating guy on that study. And I have not met John, and I'm going to make an attempt to do that. I'm one of your voters. I live in Marin County, out on the coast, and I'm one of your occasional riders. And I really would like to see you guys succeed in both realms, in passenger and in freight. So I will make an opportunity to come in and try to meet John, and if you're available, meet you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
And I'd like to be a resource. I've been involved in the rail transportation business for over 50 years.
Sounds good.
And your arrangements with the UP in Utah, I'm one of the authors of that from the UP side.
Got it.
So I happen to be very proud of what was accomplished there, and I think UTA has been doing a great job.
Right.
In the Salt Lake area. So
appreciate that. Yeah, let's get together, and we'd be happy to meet with you.
I will be giving you guys a call.
Great.
Okay. I enjoyed the session. I think what you're doing is admirable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Appreciate you, Michael.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks,
Have a good night. Anybody else?
Other than smart staff, we currently have 5 on the Zoom call. If anyone wants to speak, you can press the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen.
Okay, I'm going to mute, and Brian, if anybody pops in, just let us know.
All right, will do.
Thank you.
We have Mark McMullen has their hand raised at this time.
Hi, this is just, since we're just kind of in dead time here, I just thought I'd mention this. One of the things that living in Healdsburg that I would like to see brought back eventually is the shuttle that went down to the the airport station. Eventually, when it'll go to the Windsor station before we get something here. I'm probably one of the few people who actually use that because my girlfriend works for the library, and I would often take the evening, the one evening shuttle, either north or south to go to which library she was subbing at and go to dinner and then drive back in her car. But I think that that's really important. And you could probably build ridership if you were to, talk to the senior centers in, Cloverdale and Healdsburg and Windsor, as far as just having stops there that would get people there maybe, at least 3 times a day or something like that, that could build some ridership if it was going from specific places to the depots. So stopping like at, the Cloverdale Depot, the Cloverdale Senior Center, the Healdsburg Senior Center, Healdsburg Depot, and the Windsor Senior Center, Windsor Depot, something like that to get people to the airport. Just advertising that and letting people know, hey, we're going to be, leaving here at 9 a.m. or whatever it is, and let people get down and back in a day to Santa Rosa or Petaluma or even San Rafael. But just really think about a senior shuttle that could then kind of be the smart shuttle, if you will. And it'd be great if it was an electric bus or something like that. But that's just something that I think would help build the ridership from up here, at least build the, people knowing that they can get somewhere without having to drive to the airport.
Great.
So, okay,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you. Appreciate it. Any hands raised?
No hands raised at this time. It looks like we have 4 non-smart staff in the meeting still.
Got it. I will go on mute. Let me know.
So Eddie, at this time on the live stream is just one non-smart staff.
But he's former smart.
Hello, Eddie. It looks like we just had another person join by the name of Marty. Marty, if you have a comment, you can use the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen.
Brian, did you say his name was Marty?
Yes, that's correct.
Marty, if you can hear me okay. So we started this at 6:30. We went through all of our questions that we have up on the screen right now. So all of the folks that were here originally have left now. We stayed on because we said we would run the meeting until 8 o'clock. So we continue to be here. And so if you have something, a comment you would like to provide, we're here to listen. Thanks.
So at this time, Marty has their hand raised.
Great. Go ahead, Marty.
Marty, it appears that you are muted. I'm sending a request to unmute now. It looks like Marty is stuck on mute.
Do we have the ability to unmute him?
Not without him clicking something on his side.
Okay.
I resent the request to unmute, and so whatever they would have to do would be on their side at this point.
Okay.
Marty, it looks like you're now unmuted if you'd like to speak.
Great.
Is that working?
Yes, we can hear you, Marty.
Okay. Fabulous. I asked a question on the on your text side about the actually having TOFC ramps anywhere on the line other than in Cloverdale.
Do you want to take that, John?
Sure can. Yeah, the only ramp that's currently located on the SMARTS alignment is at Cloverdale currently. Yes.
Okay. Is there any thought of maybe building them to entice more trucking availability to put trailers on flat cars or to offload loads off of flat cars? In either the Santa Rosa Depot, there's not much left down in Petaluma, possibly Geyserville or Healdsburg.
Yeah, I would say that we're open to just about looking at everything. We're kind of starting with a blank sheet. And so, yeah, that's definitely a suggestion we can look into. John, do you have something to add to that?
No, that I have thought about trailers on flat cars. That's what the TOFC stands for. However, that's a hard market only because those regularly run in unit type trains with 40 to 50 car unit trains. But yes, it will be something that we'll look at. Because right now they're good trucking everything down to Oakland or Richmond.
Yeah, that just seems like a real good way to bring in more business, and then just have some trucks sitting there ready to haul loads off or bring them in and put them back on and ship them back out. Makes a lot of sense in an area that all the spurs have been pulled up. There was a lot of traffic down in the South Santa Rosa Avenue area that went more west. What was that? North of Todd Road, and a lot of industries in there. Whether they're still interested in doing rail traffic, I don't know. But yeah, I just think that that would be a good way to kind of entice local industries into using rail traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Next up, we have Justin Rauch.
Hey, Justin.
Hello, I'm a little younger than the most people on this call, but I have a question about if you wanted to start working on the railroad. I heard that the limit, or you have to be over the age of 21. Is that correct?
John, go ahead.
For right now, yes, but there are other railroads you can start at the age of 18. And that's where most people start, is just whoever has an opening, and they get their experience and they go to other railroads as they move forward.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
At this time, we have no more hands raised.
Okay, I'll go on mute. Let us know if anybody shows up.
Will do. Oh, we have another person joined, Owen. Owen, if you have a question or comment, you can click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. Owen has their hand raised.
Great.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I really love SMART.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So at this time, Marty has raised their hand.
Great. Go ahead, Marty. Marty muted? I don't hear him.
Unmute. There we go.
There we go.
Oh, these darn things. What's up in the old standard structure complex now that would benefit from rail service? That's south of Shiloh Road, North Airport Boulevard. Used to be a big industry that was handled by a lot of hoppers, a lot of flat cars with lumber. They made a lot of laminated trusses for structures, but I don't know if that's still something that would be a viable outlet for more service.
Currently, we have been checking those local areas. So what we do is we go out and look for large areas such as that. That used to be Standard Structures and Mead Clark Lumber, and they used to do a lot of transloading there. I know that there are several businesses located on that property, but I don't know if there's any lumber companies left there at current time.
So nothing that you know of that would go by rail?
Not yet. That's one of my next projects for the next week is to go up into that direction. I've been on the south side right now.
Okay. Yeah, just kind of curious. I worked for the Cal Northern for 2 weeks back when they made the transition from the SP to the Cal Northern, and it just wasn't financially feasible for me to stay on with them. So I went back into the private sector. But those, what was that?
Ask you this. I was with the Cal Northern since '93 and startup. And my first run at night was from Healdsburg South. So what job were you working on the Cal Northern?
I was on the line gang. So I drove, we didn't even have a high railer yet.
I remember those days.
Yeah. And I used to take the 3 furloughed guys that worked for the SP. I drove them around, operated the radio, answered the phone, was a chauffeur, and learned how to align rail. And we would leave the Santa Rosa yard and go out to Napa Junction into the office, get our orders, and then drive up to Willits. And the rail was hideous back then. It was just
It's seen better days.
25 miles an hour was a stretch. And
some places, yes.
Yeah. And just even when we finally did get a high railer, it was quite a trek to go up to Redwood Valley and gauge rail. A lot of fun, but it just wasn't going to work out. But yeah, the industries, SP back in those days, they were pretty much just trying to get rid of anybody that wanted any service. And then Cal Northern came in and they had to pick up the ball and run with it. And the ball was usually flat when they were trying to do anything with it. It was a tough transition. And yeah, I'm just wondering if there's anybody up there that would even be interested in trying it again.
There are some lumber companies left, but not like they used to have.
Yeah, nothing's up in Ukiah anymore.
Not the big hitters, no.
Yeah. And in the future, way in the future, if you ever were able to get back up to Willits or Arcata or Eureka, is any of that even feasible? I mean, that line is so shot up through the Eel River, and even out north of Willits, just a mile out of Willits going north is in bad shape.
Yes, it's still in bad shape. It would require quite a bit.
Yeah. And that the whole coal thing of trying to haul coal into Eureka, that's kind of dead.
I have not followed the coal at all. And it hasn't been approached to me either.
Yeah,
that's kind of-
Eddie's jumping
that's-
around in his seat.
Yeah, that's just a little outside our realm.
Yeah, it'd be nice to bring the line back, but cost wise, my gosh, jeez, it would really be a stretch. But I hope we get some good freight service, and that's all going to be done at night.
On the main line, yes, because we have to separate from the actual passenger service.
Yeah,
We have to run in that window. On the Brazos line, we run daylights.
yeah, good, interesting. Well, yeah, I'm standing by here. I hope you're the best.
Thank you.
You bet, bud.
Next up, we have Nico Dacon.
Hey, I had a question about the Shelville car storage. Is there any question right now about changing the types of cars being stored to something less, well, at least flammable or dangerous, or something that the community would see as a threat?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, we've been actively going after other car storage, rail car storage that is at that location.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll continue to pursue, storage cars to put in there. Really the community, their major issue was the LPG tankers, nothing else. So we'll continue to pursue business from that angle.
And at this time, we have no more hands raised.
Great. Looks like we have about 11 more minutes.
So at this time, Marty has their hand raised.
Yeah, me again. I was just curious, are you guys going to be using the same locomotives that were being used by the NWP?
Yes.
Okay, good. Are they going to be repainted?
I know they're going to be stenciled, but for their paint, I'm not shooting for that right now. I'm shooting to get the customer base.
Yep.
So that we can make a run at it.
Yeah, good. Okay, that's it. You guys have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.
We have Justin Roush has his hand raised.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Are there any plans in the distant future to try to get passenger trains onto the Brazos sub?
So, yeah, I would say in the future there is potential there. There is a rail study going on. There's some information in the state rail plan, and so yeah, in the future, I think that is possible.
Okay.
Are you talking? Make sure I'm clear. Are you talking like going towards Susan City?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, there is a plan out there. You can do some research if you want to, just looking at the Highway 37 project, and you'll see some information out there.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Do we have anybody still in attendance?
At this time, we have 3 non-smart staff in attendance and no hands raised.
Great.
So it looks like we had one person join by the name of William. William, if you have a question or comment on the comments on the screen, click the raise hand button on the bottom of your screen. Hand raised from Justin Roush.
So are there any plans in the future to have any of the Golden Gate Railroad Museum equipment run on the Smart Passenger line?
It's a good question. I don't know. We are working with Golden Gate Rail Museum, and we have been in talks with them about partnerships. So more to come on that, but we are in active conversations with that group right now.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have William.
Oh, hey, William.
So would the freight services run through the Santa Rosa North Station?
John, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, if we had freight, we would run through the stations all the way to the end location, wherever that freight customer might be.
Okay.
And at this time, we have no more hands raised. Looks like we have one more hand raised, one more question from William.
So would the original horns, like from, so Smart bought out Northwestern Pacific, correct?
Eddie, you want to answer that?
Eddie, you're muted at this time.
Sorry. Yes, we absorbed NWPCO. And so, yeah, we have their operation now that falls under Smart.
Okay. Would you guys keep the original horns on the locomotives or change them?
I think we'd leave the original horns, wouldn't we, John?
Yep, absolutely.
I love those loud horns.
Okay, well, thank you, William. We appreciate you.
Okay. You're
Okay,
welcome.
so it's 8 o'clock. That concludes our session for tonight. Again, for those of you that stuck with us to the end, we appreciate you. Everybody have a good night. We'll see you around. Bye.
Good night, everyone.